Something feels off in the air around Rangers right now, doesn't it? One minute, everything looks like it's falling perfectly into place, and the next, it's as if the ground shifts beneath your feet. That's football, sure, but there's a particular kind of frustration when you can actually see the bigger picture starting to form, and then cracks begin to appear. It's like watching a story build towards something massive, only for the tension to suddenly turn into concern. Just a short while ago, there was a genuine sense of momentum building. Performances were clicking, results were coming, and there was that growing belief that this could be the season where everything aligned. The title push felt real. The prospect of returning to the top was no longer just hope. It was something tangible. And with that came the massive incentive of Champions League football, not just for prestige, but for what it means financially and structurally for the club moving forward. But then, almost out of nowhere, the issues begin to stack up. Injuries, form concerns, and now even external factors creeping into the equation. It's never just one thing with Rangers, is it? It's always a combination, like a perfect storm threatening to derail what looked like a clear path ahead. The injury situation is where the concern really starts to bite. Losing key players at this stage of the season is the last thing any side needs, especially when consistency is everything. There are certain individuals who bring not just quality, but stability, and when they're missing, it changes the entire dynamic of the team. You can shuffle things around, you can bring others in, but it's never quite the same. And now there's growing uncertainty around players who were just starting to find their rhythm. That's what makes it even more frustrating. When someone begins to settle, begins to contribute, and you can see their confidence growing, that's when you want them on the pitch more than ever. Instead, the focus shifts from what they can offer to how long they might be out, and suddenly you're dealing with another problem rather than building on progress. It also raises questions about depth. Every squad needs options, especially during the run-in. But there's a difference between having alternatives and having players who can genuinely step up and maintain the same level. That's where doubts start to creep in. Because when changes are forced rather than tactical, you're not just adjusting, you're reacting. Looking ahead to the next fixture, there's no hiding from the pressure. This is one of those moments where mentality becomes everything. Not just in terms of effort or desire, but composure, decision-making, and the ability to handle the weight of expectation. Because make no mistake, the expectation is massive. This is a game Rangers should be winning, and everyone knows it. But that's exactly what makes it tricky. Matches like this aren't won on reputation, they're won on execution. And when there's uncertainty in the squad, when players are missing, and when others are being asked to step into roles they're not entirely comfortable with, it adds a layer of unpredictability. There's also the psychological side of things. Depending on how results fall elsewhere, Rangers could find themselves chasing rather than leading. That shift, even if it's temporary, can change the entire mindset going into a match. Instead of playing with confidence, there's that added edge of pressure, knowing that every point matters more than ever. And then, just when you think the focus should be entirely on domestic matters, another factor enters the conversation. European competition, not through Rangers' own matches, but through what's happening elsewhere. It's one of those situations that feels almost unfair, where results in a completely different tournament can end up having a direct impact on Rangers' future. The coefficient battle is something that doesn't always get the spotlight, but right now, it's impossible to ignore. The margin is tight, and every result elsewhere starts to carry weight. It's not just about what Rangers do on the pitch anymore. It's about keeping an eye on teams across Europe who are still competing and still picking up points. And that's where the tension really builds. Because there's a scenario where even if Rangers do everything right domestically, even if they push all the way and achieve what they set out to do, there could still be complications. The idea that qualification for the Champions League might not be straightforward adds another layer of uncertainty to an already intense situation. It's a strange feeling, knowing that matches happening in other countries, involving other teams, could end up shaping Rangers' path. You find yourself checking scores you wouldn't normally care about, hoping for outcomes that keep things in your favor. That's football at this level, where every detail matters, even the ones that feel distant. At the same time, there's still belief. There has to be. Because despite the setbacks, despite the concerns, the opportunity is still there. Nothing has been taken away yet. The title race is still alive, the objective is still within reach, and the chance to step into that next level remains a real possibility. But it's clear now that this won't be straightforward. There are going to be challenges, there are going to be moments where things don't go as planned, and there are going to be tests that go beyond just footballing ability. It's about resilience, adaptability, and finding a way to push through when circumstances aren't ideal. As the next match approaches, all eyes turn to how the team responds. Because response is everything at this stage, not just in terms of result, but in performance, attitude, and control. This is where seasons can be defined, not by perfection, but by how you deal with imperfection when it inevitably arrives. There's also a growing sense that this next stretch of matches could define far more than just league position. It's about momentum, belief, and whether this group of players can truly handle the weight of what's in front of them. Because when you're chasing something as significant as a title, every small setback feels magnified, and every decision starts to carry more consequence than usual. What makes it even more intense is the uncertainty around who exactly will be leading the line. When options are limited, the spotlight naturally shifts onto those expected to step in. And that's where opinions begin to divide. Some see potential, others see risk, but ultimately, the decision will come down to trust from the manager. Who does he believe can deliver in a moment where there's no room for error? There are players in this squad who have had flashes, moments where you can see exactly what they bring. But consistency is the key at this stage of the season. It's not enough to show it once or twice. It has to be there every single match. Especially now, when the margins are so fine and the pressure is relentless. One missed chance, one lapse in concentration, and suddenly everything becomes a lot more complicated. At the same time, there's a strong argument for backing those who have recently found confidence. Football is often about timing, and when a player gets that goal, that moment, it can completely change their mindset. You start to see sharper movement, better decision-making, and a willingness to take responsibility. That's exactly the kind of energy Rangers need right now, especially in attacking areas where games can be decided in an instant. But it all ties back to mentality again. Not just individual mentality, but collective mentality. How does the team react if things don't go their way early on? How do they respond to pressure from the stands, from the table, from everything happening around them? These are the questions that don't always get answered until you're right in the middle of it. There's no denying that this squad has quality. That's been clear throughout the season. But quality alone doesn't win titles. It's about applying that quality consistently, especially when the stakes are highest. And that's where Rangers have been tested before. There have been moments where things looked comfortable, only for the performance level to drop at the worst possible time. This upcoming match, away from home, brings its own set of challenges. It's not just about turning up and expecting the result to come. It's about controlling the tempo, dealing with the environment, and staying focused from the first whistle to the last. Because in games like this, it doesn't take much for things to swing in the wrong direction. You can already feel the tension building among the supporters. Not panic, not yet, but definitely concern. It's that awareness that things are finally balanced, that the gap between success and disappointment is incredibly small. And when you care as much as this fan base does, every detail becomes significant. Then there's the wider picture, the one that goes beyond just this weekend. The financial implications, the long-term planning, the ambition of the club. Champions League football isn't just a bonus, it's a key part of the vision. It's what allows the club to compete, to grow, and to attract the level of player needed to keep progressing. That's why the situation with the coefficient feels so important. It's not something players will be thinking about during 90 minutes, but it's there in the background, shaping the conversation. Knowing that another team's run in Europe could potentially impact Rangers adds a layer of tension that's hard to ignore. And yet, despite all of that, it still comes back to what happens on the pitch in Scotland. Because no matter what's going on elsewhere, Rangers have control over their own performances. Win the games, handle the pressure, and keep the momentum alive, and everything else becomes secondary. The challenge now is to block out the noise. Injuries, speculation, external factors, they all exist, but they can't become distractions. The focus has to be sharp, the approach has to be clear, and the execution has to be ruthless. That's what separates teams that come close from teams that actually get the job done. There's also a sense that this group is still learning about itself. Learning how to deal with expectation, learning how to respond to adversity, and learning what it takes to go all the way. These are lessons that can only really be understood in moments like this, when the pressure is real and the outcome truly matters. As the next fixture draws closer, the anticipation continues to build, not just because of the result, but because of what it represents. A chance to steady things, to reassert control, and to show that despite everything, this team is ready to push forward. Because in football, narratives can change quickly. One strong performance, one convincing result, and suddenly the mood shifts again. Doubt turns back into belief, and the momentum swings in your favor. That's the opportunity in front of Rangers right now, even with all the challenges surrounding them. And that's the thing about this stage of the season, everything feels amplified. Every pass, every chance, every decision carries a weight that maybe wasn't there a few months ago. Players who might have had a bit more freedom earlier in the campaign now find themselves under a different kind of spotlight, where even the smallest mistake can shift the mood instantly. You can sense that the margin for error is almost gone. There's no longer that comfort of knowing there's time to recover later, because later is now. Every match becomes a must-deliver situation, and that's where character really comes into play. Not just from the experienced names, but from everyone in the squad. This is where squads either come together or begin to show cracks. There's also the tactical side of things that becomes more noticeable in moments like these. When options are limited due to injuries, the manager is forced to think differently, to adapt, and sometimes to take risks he might not normally consider. Whether that means trusting a different attacking option, adjusting the shape, or asking players to perform slightly unfamiliar roles, it all adds to the unpredictability of what we're about to see. And unpredictability can go both ways. It can either unsettle the team or catch the opponent off guard. That's the fine line Rangers are walking right now. If the changes click, it could spark something fresh, something that lifts the entire performance. But if it doesn't, it could lead to frustration, especially if the game doesn't start the way they want it to. The supporters will play their part as well, even away from home. There's always that presence, that expectation, that demand for the team to step up. And while pressure can be heavy, it can also be a driving force. When players embrace it rather than shy away from it, that's when you start to see performances that truly matter. What's clear is that this isn't just another fixture on the calendar. It feels bigger than that. It feels like one of those moments where you learn a lot about where this team really stands, not just in terms of ability, but in mentality, resilience, and belief. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. In a development that has sent shockwaves through Scottish football, whispers are growing louder that Celtic and Rangers could be on the brink of an extraordinary swap deal. The mere suggestion of such business between the Glasgow rivals would once have been dismissed outright, yet insiders now hint that the unthinkable may be edging closer to reality. At the center of this unfolding drama stands Kevin THELWELL, whose influence behind the scenes is said to have shifted the tone of negotiations entirely. Known for his calculated approach and willingness to challenge convention, THELWELL is believed to have played a pivotal role in opening channels that were long considered firmly shut. Sources close to both clubs suggest that discussions, while still delicate, have moved beyond casual conversation into something far more tangible. The idea of players crossing the old firm divide remains deeply controversial, carrying emotional weight for supporters on both sides. Yet, in an era increasingly defined by pragmatism, financial strategy, and squad evolution, such a move may no longer be beyond the realm of possibility. Within Celtic circles, there is said to be a growing recognition that bold action may be required to maintain momentum. Across the city, Rangers are reportedly exploring creative solutions of their own, seeking to reshape their squad in a way that could shift the balance of power. What makes this situation particularly intriguing is the sense that both clubs could stand to gain, at least on paper. A carefully structured exchange might address immediate tactical needs while also signaling a new, more transactional chapter in one of football's fiercest rivalries. For now, nothing has been confirmed, and silence remains the official stance from all parties involved. Still, the mere existence of these discussions has ignited debate across Scotland and beyond. Should this deal materialize, it would not only redefine transfer boundaries domestically, but also leave an indelible mark on the history of the old firm. Until then, the rumor mill continues to churn, and supporters wait, half in disbelief, half in anticipation, for what could become one of the most astonishing moves the Scottish game has ever witnessed. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.